part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane,
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action.
This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright.
You're listening to the Krypton Report.
What's up, everybody? Chase Smith here from the Chase Smith Podcast and Cavs on the Break NBA Podcast.
And I'm JD, host of the Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we are super excited to bring you a brand new show starting next Tuesday, the Fanfare Podcast.
The Fanfare Podcast is all about your favorite movies and our favorite movies and the best moments in cinema. To help guide our discussion, each episode will feature one classic, and we will grade this movie using a report card-like scale A through F. We're going to be grading categories like acting, directing, cinematography, the score, and even the movie poster itself.
And when we're not featuring a movie report card, we'll be sharing our movie rankings, franchise deep dives, actor and director interviews, and everything in between. Movies have been a major part of our lives, and we cannot wait to share our thoughts with you.
Our premiere episode will drop Tuesday, June 27th, and JD and I will be reviewing Raiders of the Lost Ark in preparation of the release of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on June 30th, the fifth installment of the franchise.
Join us on the Fanfare Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
Here at Krypton Report, we believe in the power of podcasting, the power of speaking your voice and speaking something that comes from you. So here's a couple of podcasts you can check out, the people sharing their voice.
I am Brian Peters, the creator and host of Gravely Amusing. For the past 30 years, I've studied the history of gods and monsters in pop culture and our world. As a student of theology and history, I've tried to understand evil and its impact on us. As a writer, I've tried to share this knowledge. As a comedian, I've tried to make people laugh as I do it. But as a man-child, I'm still that scared 7-year-old boy. Join me as I share the history of horror and sci-fi, discuss classic and modern pop culture, and share a creepy story or two. This podcast may scare you, it may horrify you, or it may leave you gravely amused. Listen to Gravely Amusing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever podcasts are found. Follow us on Twitter at Gravely_Amusing or on TikTok at Gravely Amusing.
Hi, I'm Taria Maynard, and this is my co-host, Jania Patrick. We're a couple of sisters in Central Ohio who created a podcast. Our podcast is called The Confessing Heretics.
The basic premise of the podcast right now, as we see it, is we're going to talk to you guys about our stories in religion, would you say? Mm-hmm.
This podcast is about sharing our truths, our religious traumas, and our histories. We'd love for you to join us on our journeys as we talk about our pasts and discover more about ourselves along the way. We will be featured on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just look for The Confessing Heretics.
We have a $1 Patreon. Yes, I know everyone asks for money, but our $1 Patreon each month gets you commentary tracks for releasing movies, DC movies. It gets you my Requel series where I pitch ideas about movie sequels, prequels, or whatever. It also gets special bonus episodes of whatever else some of the friends of the network chime in and drop. So check that out for $1 a month. That's all we ask. Keep it cheap, keep it simple, and help us keep going. Check out the link in the show notes or Patreon, Krypton Report.
Follow the link in the link tree or in the show notes below, patreon.com/Krypton Report.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Welcome to the James Cole Podcast, where all we talk about is James Cole. I'm your host, Tyler, and with me is James Cole. Welcome, James Cole.
Well, glad to be here, you know, and I need my head to be bigger, so.
Welcome to the Krypton Report Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, and with me is my super co-host, Pants. Fights crime by day, helps people at night. What's up, Pants?
Hit the ground by night, what do you mean?
I don't know.
Pants hit the floor at night.
For anyone who's like, what? In the last episode, we were just joking about how horrible it's got to naming characters. And I was like, yeah, just be like Pants, the superhero. And that's James, Pants.
It's the denim-clad superhero.
And I am Shirt. Together we are Shirt Pants.
Nice.
Oh,
Shirt
man.
Pants.
All right, man. What's going on?
Oh, yeah, no. Just another day. Today took forever, man. Like, it was one of those days where just time stands still.
Oh, I hear you on that one. You're just like, please hurry up.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't have a whole lot in news. Got like two things. Number one, I'm pulling it up right now. This was announced today. The actor strike is over, and Superman Legacy is soaring to July 11, 2025 still. Filming is supposed to now begin March 2024. So, yay!
Yay! I did see an artwork thing today. I wish I would have shared it. I didn't even. I was busy at work, so it was kind of like one of those passing things.
Mm-hmm.
I did see a piece of artwork today on X showing Corn Sweat as Superman, and I mean, it looked fantastic.
I mean,
I highly doubt the suit's going to look as good as that one did, but we'll see.
Speaking of suit, we were released the picture.
What, we got a new character named Suit?
Yeah, that's our evil rival that we fight. Of
Pants and Shirt versus Suit.
Yeah, it's a horrible battle, man. We got to see what Josh Hartnett would look like in his test photo for Superman. The Superman film that was, Flyby, that became Superman Returns, that whole cluster. But what I find most interesting is his picture, the suit he's wearing, the symbol, it's got a black belt. And then he has a more Kingdom Come style as far as like a red S with the black behind it. And I'm kind of like, where did this suit come from?
I mean, the suit looked good. I mean, it looked like a classic, like Christopher Reeve spandex type suit, Yeah. But I thought the design was pretty good, and then the black background.
But my thing is like, where did it come from?
Yeah,
because we've seen where they were making a suit that was very much like molded, kind of like the Batman style suits for Superman. We even have like test footage of that suit with Brandon Routh and Henry Cavill with it. We've talked about that before, what was supposed to be the Flyby suit. So where did this come from? Because usually when they do tests, they use an old suit or something like that. When they auditioned for Batman Begins, people wore, I think, the Kilmer cowl to audition in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, maybe it was an extra suit that they designed that didn't get used.
I wonder
for some other Superman film. Maybe something deleted, something that didn't get used.
Interesting. But that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, now that the strikes are over, we might start getting some more news, but still slow on that front.
But, all right, let's move into fun stuff as we continue to catch up and press forward. All right, fun stuff. James, I have often said things to you like, hey, if every Batman was in a room together, he would walk out. And there's only one answer. And you would say Affleck, right? Makes sense.
I would say Affleck, yeah.
We've never said if all the Supermen were in a room together, which one's walking out.
I mean, that's kind of a tough question, you know what I mean? Just because Superman's abilities, but I would be going with Cavill.
Yeah, but see, but my thing is like when you look at Superman, the character of how his like he's not all about fighting and everything. I'm just like,
oh yeah, it'd be like Scott Pilgrim and Nega Scott walking out of the Gordon Graves club.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it'd be a whole different kind of thing. Like, oh, come out shaking hands. Okay. So, another fun thought. I have two things I was thinking about. Okay. Number one, when Superman and Lois comes back, we have an episode where Clark, like maybe it's the first one back or the second one, where after he fights Doomsday, however they do it, he's kind of like in a coma or whatever. He's like in the world between worlds. You know, that whole kind of like he's in heaven seeing people type thing, you know? And he sees Jor-El, right? He's talking to Jor-El. But then Segel walks in to talk to him and says, my grandson. And it's played by Cameron Cuff, who was on Krypton. And we finally tie the two series together. That's my pitch. What you think?
I mean, I'd watch it.
Of course you would, because you. My other thing is, I'm thinking about like this season, wouldn't it be interesting if this season ended in a way that kind of echoes where the first season ended? You know, where all of a sudden we saw this craft coming down, and it was Nat, right, in a ship. That was the end of the first season. Cliffhanger. What if the series finale is the ship comes down and it's Kara?
I mean, that would be kind of cool. Like,
just this kind of like reciprocal thing going on, you know?
Yeah. Like Supergirl kind of brought in Tyler's as the Superman that we got, and then it kind of comes back around to like now Supergirl's come to Earth, and Superman's not the only lone hero on the planet.
Yeah, like it would be interesting. So just some thoughts that are swirling around this head of mine. All right, continuing my thought processes. Our friends over at Holy Batcast did an episode that we're most proud of called "What They Would Want to See in Superman Legacy." And James and I have not done an episode about it, but we've talked here and there about things that we'd like to see. But here's the biggest thing that James and I were kind of talking off mic about earlier, is so much of like what I'd like to see in a film, I've kind of gotten on TV. So like I really have to look at things like how has Superman been represented just in film? Because it has been a character that has thrived so much on television. Like, what are things that people who only watch the movies experience with this character? And I think to me, because like so many of the things that I've wanted to see with the character, I've gotten from my adventures with Superman and Lois. So it's really interesting to sit back and think just Superman on film, because we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 movies, plus the movie serials. You want to get technical? It's including the Snyder Cut. So, but so much of them
yeah.
are
And I mean, solo films, which you got like 6.
Solo films, you have 4, 5, 6, 7. Because you have Superman the Moment, which technically is a film because it wasn't released in theaters.
Yeah, that would be the 7th one on my list there.
That's what I'm saying, technicality. Yeah, if we're just looking at that, and not looking at Justice League, Snyder Cut, or BVS, yeah, it's interesting how similar but yet different things are, just in the film series. But once you start bringing in TV, it changes a lot of the dynamic. I can just say for one thing that I do not want Superman Legacy. It's a 3-letter word. That's a name.
What, Lex?
No, Zod.
Oh, Zod.
Or just other like Kryptonians or evil Kryptonians. Like, no, I don't need that in Superman, because in Superman Legacy.
Yeah, I think that is definitely that should really be kind of off the table. Lex, Zod, and potentially other Kryptonians.
No, see, I want Lex.
That's the only go-to they've ever had. So if Lex is in there, I want Lex to be there. He would be a bad guy, but Lex can't go down.
Right.
I want Lex to be the business person who, like, even though Superman knows he's guilty, is proven he's guilty. You see it that he's guilty. Lex wiggles his way out of it, or is basically like clean on the other side.
Like, John Shea in season 1 of Lois and Clark.
Absolutely.
That's what I want. I want Lex as this antagonist, but he's not the villain. He's just, he's there. He's part of it, always causing trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't want like this, Krypton. Like, no, I don't want an alien invasion unless it's Brainiac. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Brainiac should definitely be a contender. You know what I mean? Like, to one of the villains.
I think Brainiac is the scariest villain, and I think they haven't touched it the way it should be. I mean, even the
Krypton
idea,
is the closest thing.
But I mean, like, just the concept of this character comes down that can hack our world's computers, shut down our power, digitally erase us, and all the things that we rely on computers to run for us. And it can just take over everything, and how helpless we would be.
Yeah.
And the panic and the fear. That was one thing. Do you remember that crappy Die Hard, number 4?
Yeah.
How the guy, the fire sale and everything, the hacker dude, just like shuts down everything.
You said crappy. I thought you meant 5.
Oh, 5 is bad.
4's got some really good people in it, though.
Justin Long's in it, so.
Yeah. Justin Long, Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah. But no, I absolutely think that Brainiac, he was done so well in Krypton. The idea of how widespread and scary he can be was touched upon in Smallville. And I think if you really take those together with a big budget, like a movie budget, it could definitely be something awesome to see. It's been rumored for so long. I mean, it could possibly be, but there are a lot of rogues that could be in this movie. But yeah, it doesn't. It needs to tread some new ground.
Yeah.
In the Superman world, they have been dipping back into the same exact spots of the well, into the same exact stories for decades.
And we're just talking film, okay?
Yeah.
I'm focusing just on what, because there's elements from the shows I want that could be put on film, but I'm just saying, like,
yeah, and well, so yeah, we were discussing that earlier. Like, there's so many things that we've seen them do on TV, but they need to do it in a more comic accurate representation on a big screen with a big budget. And they need to steer away from some of the things they've done on the big screen.
Like Zod and evil Superman esqueness. You know what I'm saying? Like, evil Kryptonians, alien invasion, unless it's Brainiac.
Yeah, and I mean, alien invasion is not necessarily like, for Brainiac, it's not necessarily like quote unquote alien invasion. I mean, it's one being coming down. I mean, he has the sentries and things like that, but it's the one being that controls everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it like you said, we touched upon. There's been so many aspects of Superman that's been touched upon, but they've had to change it to make it fit a TV budget. They've had to change it to make it different, you know, because it's everything's, especially with friggin' Hollywood. It's like it doesn't really ring. It doesn't, for us as fans, we know that it doesn't ring true that if you make something that the fans know, something that the fans want to see, or something that they have seen before in a different medium, that they're not going to see it or buy it, you know, if you do it again in this grand fashion, like on a big screen and with everything. Like, it doesn't, we as fans know that's not the case. That's something we want to see. Even though I've been a proponent of, I don't always need to see the 1-for-1 translation, but there's a lot of things I would love to see a 1-for-1 translation, because there are so many great stories told that they change just to be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll probably do a whole episode when more details are getting out and stuff, of just what we would like and what we don't like for a Superman film. So I mean, that'll be coming in the future as we, you know, it gets, now that the actor strike's over and things feel like they're actually going to happen, you know, compared to just like, yeah. But that's our beginning of our show. Thank you, Pants, for being here. I am Shirt, and we are going to save the world.
Blue pants or red pants and a blue shirt.
That's us. So just jumping back into things, we started doing Justice League Action, and it is nice to get back into it, because I think this is, so far through the episodes that we've worked through, this is the first time that we've had 2 episodes that are both amazing, like top tier episodes.
Yeah.
And so, time for some Justice League Action. Our first episode up tonight is season 1, episode technically 9. I know, I explain this every time. I'm going by the IMDb posts, not what you might have on your subscriptions. Timeshare. It was broadcast Saturday, February 18th, 2017. Batman and Blue Beetle are thrown back in time, where they must stop Kronos from destroying Batman on his first night in Gotham, where he faces against Carmine Falcone and his men. James, this episode was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this episode's great. We got Blue Beetle, which, you know, I love. It's a great character, great, he's very prominent in these shows like this and Batman Brave and the Bold. Plus, you know, we just got him. We just got the movie recently, which actually, with the writer's strike ending, like, Zolo is like, now I can talk about this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually allowed to freaking talk about the movie.
Yeah, but what sucks is Zolo just canceled at Motor City. Like, he was supposed to be. No. Yeah. Motor City. I was looking at Motor City and GalaxyCon, but yeah, he backed out of Motor City.
Oh, that sucks.
And I'm like, dude.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that type of stuff happens, but still, that sucks.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah, right. Well, we've got we got Blue Beetle, and then we get this episode. We get so much of the tying back to Batman the Animated Series from the 90s. We got Shirley Walker's score playing in the background. Kevin Conroy getting to reiterate the classic, I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman. Followed by comical lines of, I thought we don't pose, and, getting to see him up in the sky in the, with the rain coming down on the side of a building. Some of the history. He's got the old ears and going after Carmine Falcone.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's an episode that I remember and that I was very happy to see again, and was like, yes, this is a great one to talk about.
I mean, it's just the fact that it's Kevin Conroy doing Batman, but he gets to play with a little bit more of a fun sensibility, but while still taking himself seriously. It's like being the straight man of a comedy duo. He's still being serious and still being true to the character, but there's a touch of humor to it because of who he's playing off of.
Yeah. You got the young character of Blue Beetle talking and everything. Then you get Blue Beetle getting to do his, it's raining, it's lightning, I get to stand and do the Batman pose on the side of the building.
Mm-hmm. I highly recommend this one. Top tier. After we go through all these, we're going to make a list of like the top, 10? I'd say 10 because there's so many.
Right.
I don't think we could do top 5, but I mean we can, but I would say top 10. The second episode, Under a Red Sun, was season 1, episode 10, Saturday, February 25th, 2017. After a brief team up with Batman and Big Barda in their battle against the Parademon, Superman is transported to a planet orbiting a red sun by Steppenwolf.
Yeah, the Jack Kirby Steppenwolf.
Yeah. This is a part of Steppenwolf's plan to kill Superman and become a legend. Now with his power slowly depleting, Superman must defeat Steppenwolf and get back to Earth. As this is happening, Batman and Big Barda head to Darkseid's fortress on Apokolips to learn where Superman has been transported. Pants, what do you got?
No pants is what I've got. No, I am wearing pants today. This episode, I mean, the one thing I can say is Big Barda's design, her eyes, is really off-putting. But I do like the dynamic between her and Batman and even Superman. Them keeping score of enemies they're taking down. But this episode reminded me a lot of the episode where Toyman zaps Superman to the future in Justice League Unlimited, where maybe it's Justice League, I forget which one, where he goes to the future and the sun is red and Vandal Savage has turned the sun red, and Vandal Savage is the only person left on Earth. And you've got Superman depowered, traveling across the land. Gave me scenes of that. We get to see Wunderbar on Apokolips. Batman take down some demon dogs, and they're still keeping score tied at 2. And Superman's, even without powers, I took down 3. That's why I'm Superman.
No. Yeah, but see, that's the best line. They're like, wait, you took out Steppenwolf without powers? That's why I'm Superman. That is the best line. Jason's delivery, perfect. This episode just puts a big smile on my face. As fun as a Superman fan and getting to see the other characters interact. This is definitely such a great and wonderful show that's just so underrated.
Yeah,
I really wish we were still getting more.
Right. I do too. Great episode of the series. Superman, I love in it too. He's like, Pa was right. Once a scout, always a scout. He's prepared and everything. It was a fun episode. It was really good. I love seeing Batman and Barda show up ready to fight, ready to brawl, and Superman's like, oh yeah, we're done.
Yeah, he's like,
I was wondering how I was going to get home.
He's so casual about it too. Like.
Right?
All right, now it's time to say goodbye. JAMEES James. It's a Mickey Mouse Club reference, people. It's been a long day. We're just trying to have some fun here. It's time to bust out some comics. And James.
Tyler.
Which one do you want to talk about first? I'll let you pick.
Let's see here. The first one I think I've got up right away is Steelworks.
All right.
Let's start with that. Steelworks number 5, Mecha Madness. I like the cover. The cover's got Superwoman red and Nat on the cover. Although Nat actually hardly shows up except for in flashbacks of this issue.
Yeah.
So we open up with Walker Industries with the 0 point energy orb, installing it into his big bleeping robot. And he hops inside to control it, takes off, and it's designed like a steel suit, like a giant steel robot. He's got the S shield on it and everything. Then we get flashback to years earlier, Ameritech Industries building, future location of Walker Industries. Sean Carey shows up late again. Doesn't quite say if he's like fired or anything. So I'm not sure if that's it. It doesn't seem like that's what happened. But
it doesn't seem like he gets fired.
Yeah. But as he's walking past Charles Walker III's office, John Henry Irons is arguing with him. And the flashbacks, man, they make Walker out to just be a total douche.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, like that's exactly what he is. John is quitting. He's Walker's. You have a contract. He says, read that contract. There's
he's like, there's a morality clause. He's like, you obviously have not studied this very much.
Yeah. There's a morality clause, a morals clause that if in Ameritech's eyes, John is immoral, that he could be fired. And if he deems what they want to do with his experiments to be immoral, he can walk away. He says he has. He says, "Do you even read your contracts?" Because he says his inventions are staying at Ameritech, that they belong to Ameritech.
He's like, nope.
Do you even read your contracts? And he says, that's what I have lawyers for. So he says he's going to sue him. And the lawyers advise him that that's not going to work. That it's not the case. Like he will lose. Basically, that's what they say. And he does. He loses, and they're telling him this, and he's just like, you don't have a case. It's not, everything is on John Henry's side, and you don't have a case, and you're still being a dick about it and just saying, no, win, mm-hmm. Without even a chance, win. So then they try to take him to appeals court, and they're like, bleed him dry. Like, he has like the money to, bleed him dry. Just keep pushing and not bring anything in. Sounds a lot like the strikes that just happened.
Yes.
Ideally,
you are correct.
You know what? Ideally, these things were probably written before that actually happened, because it takes time to write and draw and everything. So, this is like real world now.
Scary.
I know, right? So they are telling him that Ameritech is bleeding out. Like everything he's done, John leaving, making it a show for the media, and Ameritech trying to keep him tied up in court is just ruining the company. And all he cares about is ruining John, and it's really backfiring on him. They find something that John tried to get rid of, a phasing matter technology, a phasing matter experiment. This is kind of where we get, this is they used his experiment to create Silver Mist. And then we get, because the company has to severely downsize if they want to stay open, we see Carrie here has lost his job. I'm sure he was on the chopping block during that whole thing. Him and his wife, she says, we'll get through this. We always do. Very emotional here. She holds his hand at the table, and the next panel, she is holding his hand in a hospital bed. Mm-hmm. And here Ameritech doesn't exist anymore. He has no health insurance. He does have some life insurance in the case of an accidental death. So he basically tries to commit suicide by stepping into oncoming traffic. And that is foiled by Steele. And this is like the only time we see Natalie is an old school Natalie in a suit. And Steele's doing the right thing, we wouldn't want to see you run down. And Lana is talking with John, discussing, she can tell that things are bothering him. And he talks about John Henry, the man who raced a machine to drive a railroad spike. He won the contest but perished. Instead of dealing with the reality of the times he lived in, he chose to fight progress, and it killed him. Some say he was a hero. I say he was delusional. He's kind of like paralleling this with him being Steele. As Steele, he's a different person than he is as John Henry Irons.
True.
Yeah. He's concerned about the future of himself, his future family with Lana. And then they hear some stuff. John Henry, this is Superman. If you can hear me, the Supers and I are tracking an object, and it's heading for pretty close to Steelworks.
Spielberg. What?
Spielberg. Man, maybe he landed on Spielberg Street.
I mean, I would name a country Spielberg, but it's like Otisburg, but whatever.
So we get the Super family. Just about everybody. I mean, we're missing Power Girl in this shot, and then but we get some extra stuff here, or we get as they're fighting the machine, they can't hurt it. The machine is withstanding everything they have, and it's given it back. They know that it is powered by Genesis and energy. Natalie, Steele, and Lana, Superwoman, go out to help the Supers. John says that thing is packed full of the same energy that causes your powers to go haywire, and you need to get out of there. And Superman says the people need help. You can help them by organizing the family and getting everyone clear. I hate to say it, my friend, but this is my problem, and it's up to me to stop it. Next, Rumble.
Awesome.
Yeah, really, really good. This story in 5 issues has picked up, and there was quite a bit of world building in those first 2 issues, but the last 3 have been really good, and I think this one might be one of the better issues of this run so far.
All right. I agree.
I really enjoyed the flashback, making Walker out to be such a dick, and then being able, it's going to be that much more satisfying when he eventually puts him down. We get all these villains, they're bad people, or they're just, but this guy is he's just an awful person, and it's going to be great to see him get what's coming to him.
Yes, you will. All right. Dawn of DC Power Girl number 2. No harbor for space pirates. So it opens up with Amalek's ship, and he's got this plant thingy, I don't know, orb that basically, takes over him, possesses him, kills him, but still lives. And then we go to the Daily Planet, and I don't know if I missed this or not, but Paige is working at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, that I did not see anywhere before that I can recall.
And I'm just like, I feel like they're doing this stuff with Power Girl, but like we talked about before with the Super Family, it's so big and they don't know what to do with her. And, we have this little montage scene where she's talking about herself and how she said, recently I had all my nightmares brought to the surface of my mind concerning the symbiote ship that raised me. The ship's AI implanted me with false memories of a normal upbringing, a well-constructed virtual reality. But even when I finally was free of the ship, it still came after me and again to subsum me, because that's all it knows. That it's programming. I cannot read tonight. It was the machine's sole function. So, I mean, it gives us the idea, like, she doesn't even know who she is and who her identity is. And then she's just going around. And when she gets back to her apartment, and there's, what do you call it? What's her name?
Omen.
I was like, oh, come on, Tyler, you can't think. And then we go to Paige's room, and dear Lord, it is a mess. As she is packing for the secret mission that Lois is kind of sent her on for Superman to the fortress in the Bermuda Triangle. And it's kind of like her walking to the fortress, learning and kind of just what is things. And she's helping out. We learned that there's a Kryptonian infection going on from something that happened. And she's trying to figure it out when Amalek, that's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
Attacks. And he's like possessed by that plant thing, and Kryptonian, he calls her Kryptonian Scourge. Long time no see, Power Girl. And they're fighting. And eventually he reaches into his eye and rips out the thing and then falls into the water. Anytime someone's possessed or infected by something, falling into water doesn't make me feel comfortable. Just because that doesn't mean it kills it.
Yeah, might be an effective way to spread it.
Exactly. But I don't know. I just feel like they have this Power Girl book, but they don't really know what to do with this Power Girl. Like I've talked about on every episode, so I won't keep hammering it, but yes, I will. I think Connor and Power Girl need their own book, and they need to be in space or on another planet or sucked to another Earth or something, because there's just too much going on. Like, there's too many Kryptonians to give them. I mean, they're basically falling into making Power Girl like Supergirl, the TV series, or something. Like, we don't need her. We don't need her in Metropolis. We don't need her at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, and being a journalist, like where did it come from at all? You know what I mean? I mean, I guess with a psychic ability, journalism would, but there's no reason for her to be a journalist. I don't, you know, that was the only thing that really threw me is like, one, how did she get here? Why is she at the Daily Planet? Why is she being a journalist?
It was weird.
Yeah, like that. just because you're a Superman family doesn't mean that you're automatically a journalist. You know.
Just because everyone in James's family is amazing doesn't mean James is, but he is.
Well, I try to spread it around, but
take one down, pass it around. James is on the wall.
So far it's not working.
So I don't know. I just think it's a character they just don't know what to do with, really. Next we have Supergirl special number 1. And I think this one really ties in. Like, this was cool. But I don't know, we'll talk about it. You want to take this lead or?
Yeah, I can take this. So basically in this issue, Supergirl is kind of having her own identity crisis here. She doesn't well, one, she's like being compared, like there's two blondes, like they have to hate each other, right? I guess that's just it, right? You know,
yeah, because
women
hate each other.
Yeah, women just hate each other, right? So
it's all competition.
Yeah, that's it. That was like kind of an absurdity, right out of the door, out of the gate, like. Like, I mean, it's 100% the internet. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, they're two blondes and they're both, you know, Supergirl and Power Girl. Like they're identical, so they got to hate each other, right?
And I
mean,
think
it's internet absurdity to the nth degree.
I almost feel like this special in a lot of ways should have been a Power Girl book, because we spent time identifying Supergirl, and I feel like Power Girl is the one that's kind of struggled with who she really is and where she fits into things. But there is some good Supergirl parts in this book. And the coloring is weird because sometimes it makes her hair look red, like orange.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly at the beginning here, it's sunset. So it's her hair against the red and orange background of the sun setting. That's how it looks to me. I mean, yes, it does look that way, but there are, especially when she gets into like your interior lighting, it is 100% like a blonde hair. But we get Otho and Osul asking her about Krypton, asking her about her memories of Krypton. And we find out that she kind of can't remember that much. She can't remember much of Krypton. And I think that's what's messing with her here, you know, or that's what's messing with her the most here, is like she feels she doesn't know exactly who she is, because the reason she was sent here was for Superman to be his protector, but that's not the case. But that's, you know, that's a story that's been told, you know, so I don't kind of understand why it's being told again like this.
It just seems redundant. Like, with everything that we've gotten with Supergirl and with, like I said, Power Girl, it just feels like we're just getting the same story again and again and again. And, you know, she goes through it. She has the whole, I don't know, like, it just,
so
her running, and I don't know. I feel like there's more that can be done with Supergirl here. And, you know, at the end, her and Power Girl come together and they both kind of fight each other to see who's going to save the day.
Yeah, they kind of race each other there, and yeah.
And it causes a similar problem to when she lost on Krypton and she tripped and fell. She wasn't part of the Jamaican bobsled team. And I don't know. We have, at the end card talking with Lois and gets a cupcake.
Well, the talking with Lois, Clark didn't. She was supposed to be his protector. She says Clark didn't need one, Kara, and there was nothing you could have done to change that particular course of events. Not from a metal tube floating through space.
And I guess this is a good book. And we have this fight. We have this struggle. Where this is that kind of book that if you're a newer reader and you're getting into it, it really helps introduce the character. You and I have been reading comics for years.
Yeah.
And know these, and it just feels redundant to us.
Well, because we are in the dawn of DC. Kind of
Right.
like this new jumping off point.
So it's nice, but so much of it feels repetitive, like we've seen it before. I mean, I do like at the end we have the two, Kara and Paige, come together, and it's still weird that Power Girl's here and around. And I'll be honest, I don't even really remember what her storyline is now, because I haven't kept up with her, like where she came from and stuff since the New 52. Like that one made sense, but I don't even know like her whole thing now. Even though I've been reading it, like.
I mean, Power Girl here is supposed to be the same character as that one.
That's what I thought, but we know how comics can be.
Yeah, I mean, they show a lot of similarities in them at this point. They both rip their cupcake in half, or at least a second cupcake, and wedge it on the top. It's kind of make this cupcake with icing in the middle. It's just she has a conversation with her father, and he says it is about a destiny that is the longest race of all. And here it's a destiny we both share. And like the only thing the best thing that's interesting about this is when Power Girl says that she saved that man and she put him in the ambulance. He says, "Thanks, Supergirl. You're my favorite." And they have a good laugh about it, because I mean, essentially they're the same person from different universes. And Power Girl tells Supergirl, "For what it's worth, you're my favorite too." So, I mean, at least in this point, they show in the beginning, like, they're at least online in the public view, like, are they fighting? Are they, butting heads? Are they, at each other's throat because they're both women, I guess? And in the end, they're not. They care for each other. They're each other's favorite person. So yeah, I mean, that's just for an introduction and to Supergirl at this point. This was a really good book. It was a good read. So like you said, but just for us, it's kind of like they've done this before and recently.
It was really interesting. It also shows like how to the public, Supergirl and Power Girl are almost interchangeable.
So, I mean, like I said, as a read, when I read it, I thought it was a good book. But then going back and talking about it, we kind of see that redundancy there. So as a book, as I enjoyed the read, but then reflecting on it, that's where we get a little bit of tied up on it. But I enjoyed it while I read it.
Yeah, I think Supergirl's a great character just because of a lot of the things that are covered in this book, and it really is kind of just a summary. All right, so we saved the best for last. The Return of Superman 30th Anniversary Special Edition. It touches on the reign of the Supermen. What did you think about this book just overall before we break it down?
I mean, it was pretty cool. I like the idea of all these stories are being told from like different characters' point of view. Ronnie Troop, but it's all and it all comes from Perry's notes on the subject at the time, and involving like Perry's integrity as a journalist, as an editor. Seeing these characters kind of in a different way. The interesting thing I thought about this book was, so these stories were written in the 90s and technology was very different. I mean, in comics we get science fiction technology, but in this book, as it is taking place, these stories are taking place at that time in the comics, but there are things that they threw in there that make it like very modern.
Because they talk about social media and cell phones, but then you got to think like it gets so hard because of like how old John was when he found out his dad had died. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was like, what, the 12-year-old kid when he found out his dad had died a couple of years back, and so it's so convoluted because like John got aged up, so like because there's a line where Lois says it hasn't been that long. It gets really difficult to draw a straight timeline. I think my issue, I like the framing idea of Perry's journal, but I don't like the idea that the modern story is like there is a concurrent attack by Cyborg Superman, because I'm like, well, where does this take place then? Because we've had this Cyborg Superman story that was in action.
Well, the Cyborg story that was in action and Night Terrors, and Cyborg at that time was like a projection of his consciousness from the Phantom Zone, whereas it seems like he's actually, or where he has escaped from the Phantom Zone.
I just feel like
he's actually physically escaped.
I feel like the story they try to tell with him, and I would prefer as its own issue or two issues, because it's a very interesting thing they go through where Cyborg Superman is actually trying to bring back his crew.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting,
and I feel like that deserves more time than what we kind of gloss over in this. I think the idea of Perry's journal is great. I would have preferred maybe the framing device. Lois is in the office and she finds, she's cleaning through some things and finds this journal of Perry's and starts reading it. And it's, Troop comes in, they start having a conversation and they go through it kind of together. And, we have four stories focused on each one of the characters, done by like the closest to the creative teams that did it back then for each individual story, and the same color, so it feels like it's from the reign of the Supermen. I still think the Eradicator is like the weirdest character because everybody kind of changes and tweaks who and what the Eradicator is every time they do it,
Right. I mean, I think this might be the closest to like what the Eradicator was at the time. Not what he is now, where my physical being is currently imprisoned in the Phantom Zone. Consider me a projection, a visual extension of my true self. So that was kind of interesting, him being there like that. But yeah, we got the attack of Cyborg Superman on Star Labs because he is ultimately trying to bring back his crew. And the other 3 of the 4 Supermen from the Reign of the Supermen show up here: Steel, Connor, and the Eradicator. And then we get Perry's so the first thing we get is so Troop finds Perry's journal because he is curating all of Perry's notes and correspondence from when he was in the hospital at this time, and now Lois has Perry's job. We do know that there was some interest in things that Perry had done in the early days. She was looking into things between Perry and the Daily Planet and Lex Luthor in his early days in Metropolis. So I think that's where, the idea of his journal coming into play, being the framing narrative here. But we get Ronnie Troop talking about how he believed that Steel was like Superman come back to life. It was his that was like his belief who it was. And we just get to see, a classic Steel story of his weapons on the street and him saving people. Then we get everybody showing up, and then we get Perry being the central focus here in the Eradicator story.
I feel like this was the strongest story from an emotional point, because it's all about Perry's feeling of how he, as a journalist, kind of failed because he named the Eradicator as Superman, the real Superman returned. And then, 2 days later is when he annihilates Coast City.
Where he runs the story of Cyborg Superman.
Yeah, I said Eradicator.
Yeah, where he runs this, and then 2 days later, I
meant Cyborg Superman.
I enjoyed the Eradicator story. I liked how he didn't think that this was Superman, and that he doesn't have the humanity of Superman, and that he wouldn't honor the word that he gave to him.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting story. I also enjoyed his interaction with Superboy at the time. And we get Superboy, the Metropolis Kid, versus Bloodsport.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, having recently read Bloodsport's introduction.
Right.
For Mullet.
For Electric Mullet.
Yep.
For the Electric Mullet podcast.
So yeah, it was interesting.
It was interesting things he did. There's bullets coated in kryptonite that should have been able to kill him. This kind of being the idea, he was reflecting the bullets not with invulnerable skin, but more probably as tactile telekinesis.
And let's pause for a quick second here. I got thinking about something. Okay, you know how I have a problem with tactile telekinesis.
Yeah,
I got thinking about something. Tyler's deep thoughts. I think it'd be neat if you explored it, since there's been so much done about Kryptonian DNA and genetics, and how there's the anomaly mutation that triggers the Doomsday. In the Doomsday, Kryptonian abomination thing, whatever. What if it's something where they, in the cloning process, they tweaking the Kryptonian genetics is what created the tactile telekinesis, unlocked some other power that can be harnessed by a Kryptonian that was dormant or wasn't available, but through the cloning process was made it available. Because you know how we've seen like little things here and there where like we've seen, I can't remember which cut of Superman 2, but like Zod and them do something that's kind of like with telepathic powers. You know, we were like, wait. And we've seen it in, I think it was in Smallville too. At one point, it was like, wait a minute, Kryptonians don't have that. I think it'd be interesting if it's something that it's a power that only certain ones have got. But like through the cloning process, it was brought out in Connor. Just to kind of give it some sort of base belief where it comes from. Because that's my problem, is like there's been no like where this comes from. Why is this a thing? And maybe it's something we'll find in the current Josh Williams run, you know? Same thing with like the whole electric thing that they started to explore John Kent, you know, and the 90s electric Superman that we just never really got an understanding for.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we do our history of Superman powers too. But yeah, that was my rant on tactile telekinesis. Now back to our regular scheduled program with James.
Right. And that concludes Tyler's Deep Thoughts.
Deep Thoughts with Tyler.
And then the next story we get is the arrival of Cyborg Superman. Betrayal. This is where we get Perry running the article. Superman is back because he runs it because the president kind of acknowledges it. And then, you know, we get destroying Coast City and Mongol, and how awful Perry kind of feels in this moment. You know, like giving the world the hope that Superman has returned, and then he becomes this person who just killed 7 million people. And then Superman returns with his black shirt, or his black suit and his mullet. Yep, and a battle. And I do like here at the end, it's great to see you, my friend. I owe you an apology. I ran a headline that says, "You don't owe me a thing, Perry. In fact, I owe you for presenting me to the world with a sense of honesty from day one. In this time of dark intent and lies masquerading as news, your honest approach made it clear that I was here to help. Your team presented me with honest, solid, objective reporting. That's why people came to trust me. They understood that I had their best intentions at heart. We write the truth, Superman. It's what we live for." That headline was an honest mistake, Perry. Thanks to your track record of journalistic integrity and honesty, people will forgive it. And then we get here to the end where we kind of find out that Cyborg is doing this to resurrect his team. His wife Terry, Jim, Steven, the crew that was with him, and Steel and Superboy and the Eradicator attack Cyborg, work on shutting him down, start taking him apart into pieces. And the Eradicator returns with a Phantom Zone projector to once again return Cyborg to the Phantom Zone.
And
excuse me. And Superman shows up. It appears Metropolis is well cared for, whether I'm here or not. He says he was looking in occasionally, but he trusted the other members of the super family there to be able to save the day in his absence.
It was good. Shows that he's confident in his team.
Yeah. This was a good book, I think, and mostly for the framing device, the different teams who worked on the different groupings of stories, the artwork and the feel of making them feel like they came out at that time.
It was a good time. All right. Well, that's kind of catching it up here for us here on Krypton Report. I am Tyler, the Superman of Blue.
Shirt.
The Man of Tomorrow, also known as in this episode, Shirt. And with me is my trusty sidekick, the bottom half, Pants.
Superman Red.
Good night, everybody. And remember,
look up in the sky.
We just want to say, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please check out other podcasts on the Press Play Podcast Network.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough Super Talk, check out these other podcasts. Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, the Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope.
Remember to check out Krypton Report on all social media platforms. Go to linktree.com/Krypton Report. You find all of our